On our second day out of Cape Town in Africa, we began to encounter strong gales. Now on our second day out of Cape Town, when they left Cape Town, then on second day they met strong gales. Strong gales means a strong wind. For the next few weeks, they blew continuously. So it's not that it was for one day or 2 days. For next few weeks, they faced these strong winds continuously. Gales did not worry me, but the narrator was not worried because of these winds. But the size of the waves was alarming. But the size of the waves, it was really horrifying. Up to 15 meters, as high as our main mast. So mast is a tall upright structure on a boat or ship. When you see the picture, their mast has been marked. So you can see that. So he says that winds were not disturbing. The disturbing thing was the waves. Fine. It was really horrifying because they were rising up to 15 meters high as our main mast. So it could affect this boat. December 25 found us 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Despite dreadful weather, we had a wonderful holiday complete with a Christmas tree, as they were with their children and very small children. So they celebrated there on their ship, on their boat, Christmas also. Then they celebrated New Year's Day also, but no improvement. Fine. They with this difficult time, with this difficult phase, Christmas passed, New Year's Day passed, but there was no improvement in the weather. But we reasoned that it had to change soon. They were just reasoning. They were just giving themselves logic that soon the time will change. Soon the weather will change. And it did. Weather changed. But for the worse. It changed, but the change did not bring something good. The change was worse. At dawn on January 2nd, the waves were gigantic. The narrator says that Christmas passed, New Year passed, and now on 2nd January, the waves, which seemed to be ordinary waves, were gigantic. Gigantic means they were very huge, enormous, they were very high. And we were sailing with only a small storm jib and were still making 8 knots. So it is a way to speak about the traveling speed. So he says that still they were able to keep the traveling speed at 8 knots. 8 knots is equal to 9.25 miles per hour compared to land miles. As the ship rose to the top of each wave, we could see endless enormous seas rolling towards us. As the ship rose to the top of each waves were very high, and with that waves, the ship was also rising high, and they could see that this huge sea, this enormous seas is plural to tell about the waves. They were rolling towards them. And the screaming of the wind and the spray for the water which was coming on the ship was painful to the ears because it was not pleasant. It was giving them indication of a storm. To slow the boat down, we dropped the storm jib and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern. Stern is the rear part of the boat. So to slow the boat down, now what they tried, they dropped the storm jib and lashed a heavy mooring rope. Mooring rope is a anchoring rope. So they lashed a heavy anchoring rope in a loop across the stern. Then we double lashed everything, went through our life raft drill, attached lifelines, donned oilskins. Donned is to apply or to wear. Oilskin is a kind of cloth which keep the body waterproof, and life jackets, and waited. So what did they do? They just made all the efforts to keep themselves safe, from that storm and to face that storm. The first indication of impending disaster came at about 6 p.m. So on 2nd January, now the first indication of impending disaster, that these are not ordinary waves, this is not an ordinary storm, it was going to be a disaster. So the first indication of impending, the upcoming, occurring disaster came around about 6 p.m. with an ominous silence, ominous, unpleasant. So before every storm there is a silence, and that silence is never pleasant. So same happened with them, that at that time, at that moment, there was silence, and there was an indication that a disaster is approaching to them. The wind dropped, the sky immediately grew dark, then came a growing roar, and an enormous cloud towered aft of the ship. Aft means near or towards. Aft is the top of the ship also. So then came a growing roar, a sound, and an enormous cloud, a very big, a huge cloud was at the top of the ship. With horror, I realized that it was not a cloud, and when the narrator saw and watched carefully, it was not a cloud, but a wave. At the top of the ship, at the top of the mast of the ship, there was a huge wave, like no other I had ever seen. So it was not his first journey. It was not his first voyage. Before that also, before this around the world voyage, he had taken many other voyages also, and for 16 years he was practicing with his wife on sea only, but he had never encountered such wave, such a high wave which he saw at that time. It appeared perfectly vertical. The waves are horizontal in this way, but at that time it was vertical, standing, and almost twice the height of the other waves. And there were other waves, these waves were also high, but this one wave was almost twice of the height of other waves, and with a frightful breaking crest, and there was the top of that wave was very frightful, and it broke on that ship. The roar increased to a thunder as the stern moved up. Stern is that back side of ship. So the roar increased to a thunder as the stern moved up the face of the wave. And for a moment I thought we might ride over it. But then a tremendous explosion shook the deck. So for a moment the narrator thought that they would ride over that wave. They would pass this wave also. But then what happened? His positive thinking stopped there when he saw that this wave, a tremendous explosion was there. This wave created a tremendous, a huge explosion, a huge burst on the deck, on that boat, which shook the deck. Deck is the flooring, upper part of the ship, which is floor. When you see that picture which I sent you in the first video, you can see all the parts, stern, deck, all in that picture. Then a torrent of green, torrent is overflow. Then a torrent overflow of green and white water broke over the ship. My head smashed into the wheel, and with that wave, with that huge wave, the narrator got injured badly. His head smashed into the wheel, and he was aware of flying overboard and sinking below the waves. The waves was taking him up and down. And at that moment, he says, I accepted my approaching death. He accepted that the death was before him. And I was losing consciousness. He was getting fainted. I felt quite peaceful. And as death is peaceful, so at that moment, he felt quite peaceful.